So today we're going to dive into a book that really changes how you look at your finances, The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. The big idea here is that being good with money has way less to do with how smart you are and a whole lot more to do with how you behave.
So let's just kick things off with a huge question. We have more financial info at our fingertips than ever before, right? So why do so many of us still struggle with money? And why do really smart people make financial decisions that just seem completely irrational? Well, the answer, as we're about to see, isn't found in logic, but in psychology.
And here is the central idea of the whole thing. Our relationship with money, it's not governed by spreadsheets and formulas. Nope, it's driven by something way more powerful and, frankly, unpredictable, our own minds.
I mean, think about it. Whenever we talk about finance, we get all technical. We debate interest rates, we argue about the perfect time to get into the market, we obsess over charts and returns. We treat it all like it's just one big math problem.
But the reality is, financial decisions aren't made on a spreadsheet. They're made in the messy, emotional, and often kind of irrational world of the human brain. The single most important piece of every financial decision you make isn't the numbers, it's your own behavior.
So, the biggest thing to take away from this is that getting a handle on wealth isn't about mastering finance, it's about understanding ourselves. Your success is not determined by what you know, but by how you act.
And building on that, we find that our personal history completely molds our financial worldview. There is no single objective truth when it comes to money. It's different for everyone. Your view of money is a direct result of your own unique life experiences. The economy you were born into, the financial stability or struggles you saw in your own family, the wins and losses you've personally gone through, all of this stuff creates a unique lens that you see the financial world through.
Let's just consider this for a second. Someone who grew up where money was always tight will probably see risk as this terrifying threat you have to avoid at all costs. But someone who came from a more secure background, they might see that exact same risk as an exciting opportunity. Now, here's the thing. Neither person is wrong. They're just operating from totally different but equally valid personal realities.
This whole idea really challenges our concept of rational behavior. Take the lottery, for example. Economists will often look at low-income families buying lottery tickets instead of, say, building an emergency fund, and they just call it irrational. And you know what? On paper, they're right. It is.
But emotionally, it can make a totally different kind of sense. When slow, steady progress feels absolutely impossible, the lottery offers this tiny sliver of hope. Yeah, it's a long shot, but it's still a shot. It is not a logical calculation. It's a deeply human response to a really tough situation.
Okay, this next idea, this is one of the most uncomfortable, but also one of the most important truths in the entire book. We love to think that success is all about skill, but the truth is luck and just random chance play a massive and often totally ignored role in everything. We are just hardwired to do this. When we succeed, we pat ourselves on the back for being so brilliant. When we fail, we beat ourselves up over our own shortcomings. But in both of those cases, we almost completely ignore the massive role of timing, of opportunity, and of pure random luck.
And man, Bill Gates just nailed this. Success can actually be dangerous. It can breed this overconfidence that just makes us blind to risk. It convinces us that our success was guaranteed and that we can just do it again and again. And that is precisely when we're at our most vulnerable.
Now, let's talk about one of the most critical distinctions in this book. Making money and keeping money are not the same skill. In fact, a lot of the time, they require completely opposite mindsets.
Getting rich? That often means taking bold risks, being super optimistic, and going all in on something. But staying rich? Whoa. That requires caution, humility, and a really healthy dose of fear. Not the fear of missing out, but the fear of losing what you've worked so incredibly hard to build.
What this means is that staying wealthy is at its core a game of survival. The number one goal isn't chasing the absolute highest returns possible, it's about avoiding catastrophic failure. It's just about making sure you can stay in the game long enough for the power of compounding to do its thing. And you know one of the biggest threats to that survival? Envy. Capitalism is amazing at creating wealth, but it's also amazing at creating comparison. Seeing somebody else get rich faster than you can push you to take these reckless risks with money you absolutely cannot afford to lose, all because you feel like what you have just isn't enough.
This brings us to a kind of counterintuitive idea. You don't actually have to be right all the time. In investing, a few huge winners often make up the vast majority of your gains. This is called the long tail. You can be wrong or just average most of the time and still get incredible results if you just manage to capture a few of those rare, monster successes.
So the real takeaway here is that your endurance is way more valuable than your brilliance. Your ability to just patiently stay in the game and be consistent, that matters so much more than trying to perfectly time the market or pick every single winner.
So let's bring this all home. If financial success isn't about intelligence or these complicated strategies, then what is it about? What's the real superpower here?
Well, we think it's about being the smartest person in the room, having the most complex models, or knowing what the market's going to do next. But what actually matters is your temperament. It's your emotional discipline and your ability to manage your own fear and greed when everything gets chaotic. When it all comes down to it, the pillars of long-term success are behavioral. It's about controlling your emotional reactions when the market is going crazy. It's having the humility to admit that luck and risk are a huge part of the equation. And above all else, it's focusing on survival, on making sure you're never, ever forced out of the game.
And really, it all comes down to this. Your financial outcomes will be driven way less by how much you know and way more by how you behave. The real challenge isn't mastering the market, it's mastering yourself. So, can you do it?